All right, so now let's suppose that we have this preference table for 4 candidates A, B, C, and D. This time we're going to do something called the runoff method. All right, so we're going to at least act like we're doing plurality to begin with. And remember, plurality, we just get the first place votes. All right, so let's look at our first place votes for A. Let's notice that these 10 people voted for A first, so A will get their votes. And then also these 2 people over here voted for A. So it looks like A has 12 votes. Well, let's look at B. These 10 people voted for B first. And then these 2 people over here did. So it looks like both A and B are in a tie so far. All right, let's look at C. These 9 people voted for C first. And then finally, let's look at D. And there's only this group of people voting for D. Oops, D, not C. And there's 4 of those. Okay, now, with the instant runoff method, is what it's sometimes referred to as, we're going to get rid of the one with the least amount of votes. So D, we're going to get rid of because it has the least amount of votes of all 4. All right, so I'm going to make a new table, and I'm going to eliminate D from that table. All right, so I went ahead and put a new table here, and let's notice that I kept the votes going across exactly the same, but now I have just first, second, and third in my table. And since we're eliminating D, I'm going to put what's in each column without the D. So I'll have A, B, C right here. Now you can do this without redoing the columns and redoing your table, but I find that it's easier sometimes to redo the table and make things cleaner, and then you don't make mistakes. So if we leave D out of this one, B, C, A. Or you might just put X's over the top of your D's rather than redoing a column. Can't really put X's over this one, so C, B, A. And then this column, if we eliminate D, B, A, C. And then this one, if I eliminate D, A, C, B. I don't know why it's doing that. And then if we eliminate D here, B, A, C. Okay, so now let's vote plurality again from the new table. All right, so if we go across, A has these 10 and these 2 again. A has 12 again. B has these 10, these 4, and these 2. So B really has 16 now. And then C has still just these 9. All right, so let's notice again that C is the lowest one. We're going to eliminate C. And our goal with instant runoff method is to get to where we have the majority of voters voting for one candidate. And we'll talk in a minute about what a majority will be. But let's go ahead and make a new table eliminating C. Okay, so again, I made a new table with all my voters in place, but I'm going to eliminate C from the previous table. So I'll have AB right here. I'll have BA right there. I'll have BA right there. I'll have BA right there. I'll have AB right there. And then finally, I'll have BA in that last column. Now, Now, we can probably see which one's going to win already, but let's go ahead and count them up. A has these 10 and these 2. It's still at 12. On the other hand, B has gained more voters. So B has these 10, these 9, these 4, and these 2. So we have 10 plus 9 plus 4 plus 2, 19 plus 6, 25. B has won the instant runoff. All right, now, at the end here, B has a majority. And a majority is 1 more than half, or 1 more than 50% of the voters. Now, we can determine for our voters, we can get all the voters by adding them up. So 10, 20, 29, 33, 35, 37 voters. So a majority for this particular crowd is anything over 1/2 of 37 plus 1 more. Or we can think of, if we get a decimal, we can just round it up and that will be a majority. So half of 37 is going to be 18.5. We just would round that up. A majority of voters in our instance here would be 19. So 19 voters would be a majority. And we want for someone to have more than the majority or the majority itself. In this case, of course, B has 25, which is over the majority. So in our previous video, we saw an example of how plurality can go wrong. Let's talk about how the instant runoff method can go wrong, what criterion it can violate. And to do that, I'm going to use the book's example because it's kind of hard to make up an example that works here. So I'm going to pull this over to the book's example. All right, so if we did instant runoff on example 7 here, we would have 37 votes for Adams. We would have 22 votes for Brown and another 12 votes for Brown. So 24 for Brown. 34 for Brown. And we'd have 29 for Carter. And in this election, Carter would be eliminated in the first round, and then Adams would get those 29 votes, making Adams the winner in the second round of our instant runoff. So let's suppose that the voters who originally voted Brown, Adams, and Carter right here, just these two, changed their vote to favor the presumed winner, changed their votes to Adams, Brown, Carter. All right, so in other words, this right here, Adams, would go up to the top. Now, you would think that would mean that Adams would win if you just switched it so that Adams got 2 more votes here. All right, but instead, Adams would have 49 votes, Brown would have 22, and Carter would have 29, and Brown would be the one that got eliminated from the process. And when Brown got eliminated from the process, these 22 votes would go to Carter, and Carter would win the instant runoff. So by changing just 2 people here, and even in preference to Adams, who won the election up here, the other guy, Carter, won. So that's a problem. That's kind of a funky, weird thing that can happen. So if voters change their votes to increase the preference for a candidate, it should not harm that candidate's chances of winning. So it certainly should not have harmed Adams' chances of winning by putting him as the top choice for these 2 people. But it did. It changed the actual outcome in the instant runoff method to Carter instead of atoms, who would have won up here.